So, Hare Krishna, we will resume and
Recording in progress.
look at the last part of the chapter, the sages teaching at Kurukshetra. The sages were ready to leave, but Vasudeva asked just a question, and I first will repeat that question in text 29. Shri Vasudev said, obeisance to you, the residents of all the demigods. Please hear me, O sages. Kindly tell us how the reactions of one's work can be counteracted by further work. So Vasudeva is thinking that he is no ordinary person. How can my karma, my bad karma, be removed by karma yoga? That is his question. So text 30. Shinarda Muni said, O Brahmins, is it not amazing that in his eagerness to know, Vasudeva has asked us about his ultimate benefit, for he considers Krishna a mere boy. Can someone read the purport, please?
Sri Jiva Goswami relates Narada's thoughts. Sri Narada understood how Vasudeva, in line with his mood of pretending to be an ordinary householder, asked the sages about Karma Yoga. Although he had already attained spiritual goals, even great yogis and rishis cannot achieve. But Narada was still concerned that Vasudeva might create an awkward mood by treating Lord Krishna as a mere child in the presence of all the sages. Narada and other sages felt obliged to maintain their attitude for reverence toward Lord Krishna. So, how could they ignore him and presume to answer Vasudeva themselves? Uh, to avoid this embarrassment, Narada took this opportunity to remind everyone present of Sri Krishna's absolute supremacy.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Vishwanatha Bhakti, it says, the sages were astonished. Oh, he is the father of the Lord and thinks himself fallen in the material world. If he's asking for the benefit of others, why does he give up Krishna and ask us? To answer them, Narada spoke this verse. It is not surprising that Vasudeva, thinking of Krishna as his son Arbakam, not the Lord, asked what is beneficial for himself, Atmana, from us. That text 31. In this world, familiarity breeds contempt. For example, one who lives on the banks of the Ganges might travel to some other body of water to be purified. Can someone read the purport of Vishwanatha Bhakti Thakur, please?
Indeed, he knew that Krishna was the Lord from his very birth, but living close to him bred familiarity. That is expressed in this verse. Narada knew that the cause of Vasudeva not seeing Krishna as God was Vasudev's prema, but at that great gathering, he explained things according to the common man's level, not describing the greatly confidential highest truth about prema. Hearing this verse from Narada, it is certain that Vasudeva would increase his respect for Krishna as the Lord. For men, proximity is a cause of lack of reverence, another.
Thank you. Interesting. 22-23. That the Supreme Lord's awareness is never disturbed by time, by the creation and the destruction of the universe, by change in its own qualities, or by anything else, whether self-caused or external. But although the consciousness of the personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme One without a second, is never affected by material distress, by the reactions of material work, or by the constant flow of nature's modes, ordinary persons nonetheless thinks that the Lord is covered by his own creations of prana and other material elements, just as one may think that the sun is covered by clouds or by snow or an eclipse. So this is a description of what Krishna consciousness is like, and practically. The only way you can describe Krishna consciousness is by what it isn't like. One must be on the level of Krishna consciousness to know how his consciousness is like. It is beyond our capacity to understand. You can describe it by negation, what is not like. It is never disturbed by time, it is disturbed by prema, but is never disturbed. The Supreme Lord's consciousness is impossible to understand. So an ordinary person thinks that the Lord in terms of their own understanding of what Krishna is. I hope you still hear me, because it says sometimes on my screen that my internet connection is unstable. Now it's gone. But if it doesn't come through nicely, please let me know. Just as one may think that the sun is covered by clouds, but the sun is not covered. Our vision of the sun is covered. Now, can someone read this purport? It's on the screen now.
Things of this world are inevitably destroyed by one means or another. Time itself causes the eventual decay of every created being. A fruit, for instance, which may grow ripe but then must either rot or be eaten. Some things, like lightning, destroy themselves as soon as they are manifested, while others are destroyed suddenly by external agents, as a clay pot is by a hammer. Even in living bodies and other things whose existence continues for some time, there is a constant flux of various qualities that are destroyed and replaced by others. In contrast to all this, the Supreme Personality of Godhead's awareness is never disrupted by anything. Only out of ignorance could one imagine him to be an ordinary human being subject to material conditions. Mortal beings are covered by their entanglement in fruitive activities and their consequent happiness and distress. But the Supreme Lord cannot be covered by what are in fact his own expansions. Analogously, the immense sun is the source of the relatively insignificant phenomena of clouds, snow, and eclipses, and so it cannot be covered by them, though the ordinary observer may think that it is.
So this was Narada Muni describing Krishna. But now the sages will speak again. 434. Sukadeva Goswami continued. The sages then spoke again. O king, addressing Vasudeva, while all the kings along with Lord Asyuta and Lord Ram listened. So Vasudeva asked earlier that yes, what kind of karma can remove the reactions of my work in this world? Now we will hear the answer. The answer is, of course, worship of Lord Vishnu. 35. The sages said, it has been definitely concluded that work is counteracted by further work, When one executes Vedic sacrifices as a means of worshipping Vishnu, the Lord of all sacrifices, with sincere faith. That So the sages are representing here the Vedic wisdom, and they are giving the conclusion of the Vedic wisdom. The Lord is worshipped through sacrifices. Bhagavad Gita 3:9 and so on. 36. Learned authorities who see through the eyes of the scripture have demonstrated that this is the easiest method of subduing the agitated mind and attaining liberation, and that is a sacred duty which brings joy to the heart. This is the most auspicious path for a religious householder or the twice-born orders to selflessly worship the personality of Godhead with wealth honestly obtained. That the Vasudev's worship of Krishna as his son is already the perfection of that principle. This is beyond the scope what is included in the Vedic principles. But this principle for householders is very correct. And so this is the most auspicious path for religious householders of the twice-born order to selflessly worship the personality of Godhead with wealth honestly obtained. So can someone read the purport of 37, which is on the screen?
Both Sridhar Swami and Sri Jiva Goswami here agree that the ritual karma of Vedic sacrifices is particularly meant for attached householders. Those who are already renounced in Krishna consciousness, like Vasudeva himself, need only cultivate their faith in the Lord's devotees, his deity form, his name, the remnants of his food, and his teachings, as given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
So, in other words, those who are on the devotional path don't have to perform sacrifices. This kind of instructions is for attached householders. 38. As intelligent persons should learn to renounce his desire for wealth by performing sacrifice and acts of charity, he should learn to renounce his desire for wife and children by experiencing family life. And he should learn to renounce his desire for promotion to a higher planet in his next life. O saintly Vasudev, by studying the effects of time, self-controlled sages who have thus renounced their attachment to household life go to the forest to perform austerities. So one should go to a place where time doesn't affect. When one is in a comfortable situation, then the tendency is to get pleasure from it. When one goes into the forest and lives in an austere and simple way, one has to take shelter of the spiritual energy. Otherwise, it makes the heart hard, which is not conducive for spiritual advancement. The purpose of austerity is to remove our emphasis from the external to the internal. It forces us because we are pleasure-seeking, to seek pleasure on the spiritual level, the Paramatma level or the Brahman level. 39. Dear Prabhu, a member of the twice-born classes is born with three kinds of debts. Those owed to the demigods, to the sages, and to the forefathers. If he leaves his body without first liquidating these debts by performing sacrifice, studying the Vedas, and begetting children, he will fall into a hellish condition. Can someone read the purport, please?
Concerning the special obligations of a Brahmana, the Shruti states, Jayamano ve Brahmanas tribhir rinvan jayate brahmacharyena risibhyo yagyena devibhya prajaya pitrabhya. Whenever a Brahmana takes birth, three debts are born along with him. He can pay his debt to the sages by celibacy, his debt to the demigods by sacrifice, and his debt to the forefathers by begetting children.
Okay, that is 39. First they talk about householders in general. Now text 40, 41, we will hear examples. But you, magnanimous soul, are already free from your debts, those to the sage and the forefathers. Now absolve yourself of your debts to the demigods by executing Vedic sacrifices, and in this way free yourself completely of debt and renounce all material shelter. So indeed, we had heard of Prishni, Sutaba, they have done it in their previous life. Vasudeva and Devaki, in their previous life, they have done that. They are already free from the debts to the sages and the forefathers. So that now 41. O Vasudeva, without doubt, you must have previously worshipped the Lord Hari, the master of all worlds. Both of you and your wife must have perfectly worshipped him with supreme devotion. He has accepted the role of your son. Can someone read the purport, please?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur paraphrases the sage's mood as follows. We have answered you who questioned us in the manner of ordinary discourse. In the same ordinary way, in truth, however, since you are the eternally liberate Father of the Supreme Lord, neither worldly customs nor the injunctions of the scriptures have any authority over you. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the very name Vasudev indicates that Vasudev manifests brilliantly. Divyati, the super excellent wealth, Vasu, of pure devotion service. In the 11th canto, Narada will again meet with Vasudev and at that time remind him, Devarsi bhutapnanam pitrinam naking karonayam rinicharajan sarvatmanaya saranam saranyam gato mukundam parihitya kartam. O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even his forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately.
Thank you. So Narada and the other sages already know this. So there were three interactions. First, we heard about Krishna and the sages, Krishna respecting the sages. Then they explain the purpose of the Vedas. And the third interaction is between Vasudeva and the sages here. They explain the process to attain the goal of the Vedas. Have your body, mind, and words focused on pleasing the Lord. It is the Lord who is worshipped. It is not the ceremony that is the essential part. It is having your body, mind, and words focused on pleasing the Lord. It is important because we have the tendency to become completely absorbed in the activity, and then we don't bring the consciousness in the activity while we are performing it. We have the tendency to do their activities without the devotional part and do it in a mechanical way many times. And therefore we are wondering why we don't get the result that we are hoping to get. We want to bring the consciousness and the purpose why we are doing it. We have to bring the consciousness and the purpose why we are doing it into the process. The consciousness is a part of the process. Devotional service is different from karma yoga. We do the activities and then offer the results to Krishna. We take the consciousness that I'm doing it for Krishna into the activity. That's important. Text 42. Sukadev Goswami said, after hearing these statements of the sages, generous Vasudev bowed his head onto the ground, praising them, requesting them to become his priests. So he's going to organize a sacrifice. We will hear about that sacrifice and what happens after that until the end of the chapter. That text 43. Thus requested by him, O king, the sages engaged the pious Vasudeva in performing fire sacrifice at the holy place of Kurukshetra according to the strict religious principles and with most excellent ritual arrangements. When Maharaj Vasudev was about to be initiated for the sacrifice, O king, the Vrishnis came to the initiation pavilion after bathing and putting on fine clothes and garlands of lotuses. The other kings also came, elaborately ornamented, as well as their joyful queens, who wore jeweled lockets around their necks and were also clad in fine garments. The royal wives were anointed with sandalwood paste and carried auspicious items for worship. So why are they all joyous? The atmosphere is very auspicious. The auspicious atmosphere brings joy to the heart. Inauspiciousness brings distress and misery. So we'll hear now what happened. Mridangas, patahas, conch shells, berries, anakas, and other instruments resounded. Male and female dancers danced, and suttas and magadas recited glorifications. Sweet-voiced Gandharvis sang, accompanied by their husbands. After Vasudev's eyes had been decorated with black cosmetic and his body smeared with fresh butter, the priest initiated him according to scriptural rules by sprinkling him and his 18 wives with sacred water. Encircled by his wives, he resembled a regal moon encircled by stars. That is verse 47. Yeah. Can someone read this purport? You don't have to read all the Sanskrit.
Devaki was Vasudeva's principal wife. Yes, Master.
Okay, thank you, Adam. But she had several co-wives, including her 6 sisters. This fact is recorded in 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, Ahuka had 2 sons named Devaka and Ugrasena. Devaka had 4 sons named Devavan, Upadev, Sudev, and Devavardhan. And he also had 7 daughters named Shantidevi, Upadeva, Srideva, Devarakshita, Sahadeva, Devaki, and Dhritadeva. Dhritadeva was the eldest. Vasudev, the father of Krishna, married all these sisters. Some of Vasudev's other wives are mentioned a few verses later. Devaki, Ravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madhira, Rochana, Ila, and others were all wives of Anakadundubhi, Vasudev. Among all Devaki was the chief.
48. Vasudev received initiation along with his wives, who wore silk saris and were adorned with bangles, necklaces, ankle bells, and earrings. With his body wrapped in a deerskin, Vasudev shone splendidly. 48. My dear Maharaj Pariksit, Vasudev's priest and officiating members of the assembly dressed in silk dhotis and jeweled ornaments looked so effulgent that they seemed to be standing in the sacrificial arena of Indra, the killer of Vrita. At that time, Krishna and Balaram and Krishna, the lords of all living entities, shone forth with great majesty in the company of their respective sons, wives, and other family members, who were expansions of their opulences. 51. Small purport. Performing various kinds of Vedic sacrifices according to the proper regulations, Vasudeva worshipped the Lord of all sacrificial paraphernalia, mantras, and rituals. He executed both primary and secondary sacrifices, offering oblations to the sacred fire and carrying out aspects of sacrificial worship. Can someone read the purport, please?
There are
Numerous kinds of Vedic fire sacrifice, each of which involves several elaborate rituals. The Brahmana portion of the Vedic Shruti specifies the complete step-by-step procedure of only a few prototype sacrifices, such as the Jyotistoma and Darsha Purnamasa. These are called as the Prakrita or original yagnas. The details of other yagnas must be extrapolated from the patterns of these Prakrita injunctions and according to the strict rules of the Mimamsa Shastra. Since other yagnas are thus known by derivation from the prototype sacrifices, they are called Vaikrita or changed.
So this purport describes the kind of Vedic sacrifices. 52. Then at the appropriate time and according to scripture, Vasudeva remunerated the priests by decorating them with precious ornaments, though they were already richly adorned, and offering them valuable gifts of cows, land, and marriageable girls. After supervising the Patni, Samyaja, and Avabritya rituals, the great Brahmin sages bathed in Lord Parasuram's lake with the sponsor of the sacrifice, Vasudeva, who led them. So the sacrifice was concluded here. Now what happened further? His sacred bath complete, Vasudeva joined with his wife in giving the jewelry and clothes they had been wearing to the professional reciters. Vasudeva then put on new garments, after which he honored all classes of people by feeding everyone, even the dogs. So the horses, the dogs, everyone was fed after the sacrifice. With opulent gifts, he honored his relatives, including all their wives and children, the royalty of the Vidarbha, Kosal, Kuru, Kasi, Kekaya, and Srinjaya kingdoms, the officiating members of the assembly, and also the priests witnessing demigods, humans, spirits, forefathers, and charanas. Then, taking permission from Lord Krishna, the shelter of the goddess of fortune, the various guests departed, but they all chanted the glories of Vasudeva's sacrifice. That the Yadus were all embraced by their friends, close family members, and other relatives, including Dhritarashtra and his younger brother Vidura, Pritha, and her sons Bhishma, Drona, the twins Nakula and Sadev, Narada, and Vyas, the personality of God, at their hearts melting with affection. And these are the other guests left for their kingdoms, their progress slowed by the pain of separation. They didn't want to end it. Nanda Maharaj showed his affection for his relatives the Yadus by remaining with them a little longer, together with his cowards. During his stay, Krishna, Balaram, Ugrasena, and the others honored him with especially opulent worship. So that you will hear about that, about the recording that I shared with you through WhatsApp. So nearly everyone else left, but the cowards of Vraj, they remained. So it is said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says here, Nanda was worshipped by much more profusely even than the sons of Pandu by Vasudeva. This indicates by the word too. This was possible because after all the others departed, Nanda did not depart for a long time. Text 60. Having so easily crossed over the vast ocean of his ambition, Vasudeva felt fully satisfied. In the company of his many well-wishers, he took Nanda by the hand and addressed him as follows. So the next 4 verses are spoken by Vasudeva to Nanda. Sri Vasudeva said, "My dear brother, God himself has tied a knot called affection, which tightly binds human beings together. It seems to me that even the great heroes and mystics find it very difficult to free themselves from it. Indeed, the Supreme Lord must have created the bonds of affection for such exalted saints, as you have never stopped showing much less friendship towards us ingrates, although it has never been properly reciprocated. So look what you did for us when we were in difficulty," Vasudeva says. "We had no other choice. We brought our sons to you, and you took care of them. After Krishna killed Kamsa and we were out of the difficulty, you, with all your affection, receiving nothing from us, you did us such a wonderful favor, and we could not reciprocate. We kept far away from you and did not see you until this moment." That's what he is saying here. "Previously, dear brother, we did nothing to benefit you because we were unable to. Yet even now that you are present before us, our eyes are so blinded by the intoxication of material good fortune that we continue to ignore you. O most respectful one, may a person who wants the highest benefit in life never gain kingly opulence, for it leaves him blind to the needs of his own family and friends." So these were the words of Vasudeva. But now we are going back to text 61. Can someone read here the purport of Vishvanatha Thakur, please?
Think these bonds of affection are hard to cut, the warriors by their strength, or hard to give up by yogis by their knowledge. The extra verb "to be done" should be added. The meaning is you, two are firmly day and night bound by the ropes of affection to my 2 sons.
Thank you. And can someone read here the purport of 62 of Vishvanatha Thakur?
A friendship which is incomparable and irrepayable, bestowed by saintly persons in the form of yourselves upon us by bestowing the great treasure of firm affection upon Krishna and Balaram, will certainly, Charapi, never cease. Who are we? We are ungrateful, Preta Anajasu, not acknowledging the help you rendered to us. Therefore we are not saintly. Therefore we are not ashamed to even speak this to you who are so saintly.
63, and also 63, Vishvanatha Thakur.
In this verse he describes his ingratitude. Previously I did not repay you because of being imprisoned by Kamsa. Suddenly, now after Kamsa has been killed, even though free, being blind by wealth, I do not see you being blinded by wealth.
And the last purport of Vishwanath, here is 64.
A person should not, ma a boot, obtain wealth and kingdom. The addiction of in a boot is poetic license. Putting Nanda into the ocean of great humility by his praises, Vasudeva also became submerged in humility as indicated by his words.
Thank you. So, Shukadev Goswami said, his heart softened by feelings of intimate sympathy, Vasudeva wept. His eyes brimmed with tears as he remembered the friendship Nanda has shown him. So Vasudeva recognized the love of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda for Krishna. And 66, And on his part, Nanda was also full of affection for his friends, Vasudeva. Thus, during the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce, I will be leaving later today, and I will be leaving tomorrow. But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 months, honored by all the Yadus. This is 66. Yeah. So you can, this is a nice purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but it's a long one. But yeah, can someone read the first 2 paragraphs which are on the screen? Then after 3 months.
Then after 3 months, Nanda said, O Krishna, whose one drop of face perspiration is worshipped by millions of living entities, immediately go to Raja. I cannot spend any more time here. O friend Vasudeva, please send Krishna to Raja. O King Ugrasena, you give the order to Vasudeva, my dear friend. If you do not do so, we will just now die before your eyes in the holy land of Kurukshetra. We did not come on the occasion of the eclipse to obtain pious credits, but all of us in Raja were convinced in our hearts that if we did not see Krishna, we would die, and if we saw Krishna, we would live. Saying this, being satisfied by millions of ornaments and all desirable things, he departed. Then Vasudeva, being knowledgeable of time, place, and person, was advised by friends, spoke to satisfy Nanda. O friend, king of Raja, you speak truthfully. How can I approve of any malice towards friends like you? Therefore, by all means, I will send Krishna to Raja. But now, let him take all of us, with relatives, friends, and women, to Dwaraka. Then, on another day, at an auspicious moment, let him go to Raja with no obstructions. I swear to this more than 1,000 times. We have come with Krishna. Without him, how can we return home? What will people say? You are learned in all matters. Please permit this. Please tell me my offense in requesting this to you.
Ugrasena said, O king of Raj, I've been the surety of this. I swear to it. Even by force, I will send Krishna to Vraj. And interesting. We continue with the last verses now. Then after Vasudeva, Ugrasena, Krishna, Uddhav, Balaram, and others had fulfilled his desires and presented him with precious ornaments, fine linen, and varieties of priceless household furnishings. Nanda Maharaj accepted all these gifts and took his leave. Seen off by all the others, he departed with his family members and the residents of Raj. Unable to withdraw their minds from Lord Govinda's lotus feet, where they had surrendered them, Nanda and the coward men and women returned to Mathura. Their relatives, having thus departed by seeing that the rainy season was approaching, the freshness whose only Lord was Krishna went back to Dwarka. They told people of the city about the festive sacrifices performed by Vasudeva, Lord of the Yadus, and about everything else that had happened during their pilgrimage, especially how they had met with all their loved ones. So that's the end of the chapter. So we went through the entire chapter. You have seen how many commentaries there are, also of Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, that our time is just too short to go in depth in this chapter, but I tried with the help of also with Burjan's comments and the purpose of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that I tried to give you a good idea of the mood and the teachings of this chapter. So, can you share with me what struck you the most in this chapter, and if there are any questions or comments you want to make? Hare Krishna. Yes, Ram Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it is so striking that the Brajavasis came there with great hopes to have Krishna back with them, but then they had to return back empty-handed, just with the promise that Krishna would be back again after some time. That shows that Krishna wanted to establish the exclusiveness of the Brajavasis among all others, and definitely wanted to put them on the highest platform because he lived with them and he continues to be with them. The entire chapter otherwise reflects upon the various kinds of rituals, its significance, and importance for humanity, and the instructions of Krishna to both the sages and the others who are assembled there. It had its own flavor as well. As we saw in the previous chapter about the queens sharing about their affection of Krishna as well. So what is really touching to me here is Nanda Maharaj literally cried to have Krishna with him, but yet he could not get him. And this is very, very heartening indeed. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that is the mood of separation that we heard about that in previous chapters, and we will hear about that also in the 11th canto. Krishna will again speak to Uddhava about Vrajavasis and about that mood of separation also. That, of course, the Vrajavasis, we have heard, most of them, the coward boys, and just by their mood of separation, they enter the aprakat lila of the Lord and get their union on that platform. But the gopis, Radharani, Mother Yasoda, and Nanda Maharaj, they stay in the prakrita bhav, the mood of separation, feeling that deep mood of separation, because it's a more intense love. In this world we think of separation as suffering, but on the spiritual platform, the feeling of separation brings factually union and is very ecstatic. There is no suffering. Suffering is a spiritual emotion, difficult to understand for us, very difficult. Who are on the for us who are on the Baldi platform. Anand Kaur Sundar Prabhu, please.
What I could see is like Maharaj appreciate is the how devotees were dealing with each other of with different emotions they had. Like sages, they worship Krishna in reverence, and they had to adjust with the feelings of Vasudev, so Narada and the sages. Similarly, Vasudev, he is also worshipping Krishna in Vatsalya Bhav, but Nanda Maharaj has more intimacy. So he had to take back Krishna also at the same time he had to pacify Nanda Maharaj also. So the way devotees had to maintain their own mood at the same time adjust with the mood of others. So such an interaction with such a variety of moods, I think it's not available in any other chapter.
That is very beautiful, because what you mention is this makes relationships relishable, really. That it makes relationships very sweet, and this adjusting to the mood of the other. That of course we speak about adjusting to the moods in devotional service. And there's a very nice observation on Carson. Thank you for sharing that. That's something else you want to share? Good, then because tomorrow, yes, Mother Emma Gopi, please.
Maharaj, may I ask a question, Maharaj?
Yeah.
When Krishna's pastimes wrap up in this material world, then all the associates Krishna transports to the spiritual world. So do they again come back for Gauranga Mahaprabhu's Leela, like Kamsa came as Chandkazi and all? Do they come back again for Lord Gauranga Leela? How does it work, Maharaj? Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. Krishna's pastimes move from one universe to another. It ends in one universe, it starts in another. I remember Bhujan Prabhu saying that at the time of the Mausala Lila, the annihilation of the Yadus at Prabhas, and Krishna is going to leave. And he compares Krishna's pastime with a roadshow. That roadshow is going from one place to another. And so the drama is over. And they are going to perform the drama at another place. So the drama is over. They take off their costumes and so on. And they go to the next universe to perform their drama. But now Gauranga's pastimes, there you have this same Vrajavasis, these same associates, many of them at least, appeared in Lord Chaitanya's pastime. But Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of Srimad Radharani. So all the gopis who appeared in Krishna's on Gauranga's pastimes got a male body. That's interesting. But many appeared also in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And of course, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are not ended. They are still going on. We are part of this pastime, the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. That's how we can see this ISKCON movement. We can see it on the institutional level, okay? Not always without problems, that level, but it exists also on the transcendental level of spreading Lord Chaitanya's movement, the spreading of the Sankirtan movement. And Krishna sends also his eternal associates, even later on. An example is Prabhupada. Prabhupada is Krishna's eternal associate. And Lord Chaitanya predicted him. Later, if some will escape to foreign countries, he said, I will send my great general and he will catch them. That was Prabhupada, was predicted. So that's, yes. But which associates are coming from where and so on? There's the Gaura Ganodipika, something like that. The scripture that describes all these relationships with the pastimes of Krishna. So these relationships are there. How that goes, it's a bit inconceivable for us, but it happened for sure. Good, thank you. Something else? Good, then tomorrow we will have chapter 85, the last chapter we will discuss together. Lord Krishna instructs Vasudeva and retrieves Devaki's sons. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Srila
Prabhupada ki Jai.
Recording stopped.